All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David. I am going to be your guide on this financial aid training today. Today, we're going to be talking about how much you're really going to pay, right? A lot of people have a little bit of a, I can't think of a good word right now. They have a little bit of a misconception as to what they are actually going to be paying for college, okay? And so I'm going to be talking about what colleges actually cost nowadays. I'm also going to be telling you about what you think or what most families generally save in different kind of income brackets. And I'll also be able to show you what I have been able to save families so that you can see, hey, you know what? There's something to this. There's something else that's going on, right? So it is July 16th. It's right at 5 o'clock. We're getting started. Again, putting those, your students' grade into the chat really does help me out later on as I review and see kind of what information I need to kind of add into my trainings. Okay. But just a little bit of information today. We're going to be talking about what college actually costs. We're also going to be talking about how much you are going to have to pay as the parent, right? We're also going to be talking about, generally for any family, what colleges do, right? How much they give you, right? And like at the end of the day, they make you take the brunt of the kind of pain, right? We'll also talk about how we save you money and how much money we have saved for families in different situations. The one thing I want to say in this situation is don't get suckered, right? Colleges are really good at saying, you know what, this is what we can provide you, that's it, right? That is not the case, right? There's always more that we can be doing, okay? Now, just a little bit about me, if you don't know, you normally see me with this hat on, right? It's kind of my lucky hat. I have it on for all the trainings. I do have hair underneath this. That's what it looks like in that picture, okay? But I am a former law school and college admissions reader, right? I'm a former lawyer turned college admissions kind of guru, right? And I'm here to help your family save money. So let's get kind of straight into it. I always start off all of our trainings with a little bit of financial aid news. So I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on the big, beautiful bill that was passed. I believe it was on July 4th. Okay. So there's a lot of different changes, but I'm just going to be talking about the ones for financial aid. Okay. Now, if you are a low income family, this does apply to you. And when I'm talking about low income, it's basically like families that are kind of like below the $60,000 kind of income bracket, right? The Pell Grant eligibility requirements have now been tightened, which means that your income, which previously might have made you eligible for the Pell Grant, might no longer be the case. Okay, so it's been roughly families that are under the $60,000 mark, but again, maybe they have lowered that. I didn't find the exact kind of language, but they have tightened the eligibility requirements, right? Yet they're also trying to make up for that by allowing more people to take part of like a workforce training program. If your student's part of that, then students can be re-eligible for the Pell Grant. So they're opening it up to kind of different income brackets, people that are part of that workforce training program. Okay. Another bad thing about kind of like what's happening with the big beautiful bill and the Pell Grant is that if your student is already getting like a full ride, and we'll talk a little bit about full rides later, right? But if your student is getting a full scholarship, right, which usually means that they're getting their tuition and their fees paid, they're getting housing and food paid for, and their books, right? They will no longer be able to utilize the Pell Grant Fund. So basically, if you're already getting something from school, right, that's a full scholarship, and you also have the Pell Grant will just disappear, right? You won't be able to have those extra funds that might be used for other things like study abroad or this or that, so on and so forth, that students might have a little bit more flexibility. Unfortunately, they're taking that piece away. Okay. So that's my update this week. As there are more things in the pipeline, I'll try to give you guys some more information. Now, I want to give this quick message, but I'm kind of doing it not as a like something's available to you guys, right? There's a quick message, and I want it to be kind of like a warning to all the families, especially the rising 12th graders, because I have a lot of students here that are rising 12th graders, right? As for those of you guys that don't know, our parent company is egelloC, right? Financial Aid Secrets is a company underneath that, right? We work together, we work in tandem, right? Now, I always tell families, right? The first step to kind of going to college and, of course, paying for it is getting in. If you don't get in anywhere, we can't think about paying for college, right? So, I've been telling you guys since April to sign up for our college application intensive that is starting in the summer. Unfortunately, we're completely sold out, right? We're basically on a waiting list situation. If someone cancels, there might be a spot open, okay? If you do have a rising senior, right, reach out to us. We might have a spot available here or there, right? From what I understand, though, we are completely sold out. Unfortunately, you missed the boat on this one, right? We do have other programs that can help your student, right? We just don't have these summer boot camps available for them anymore. Okay, so I want to let you guys know because I'm telling you this not as I told you so, but because our students that are working with us have already started. A lot of them are done with their UCPIQs. A lot of them are done with their personal statements. Okay. So there's a lot of work that has been done over the last kind of like 2 or 3 months. Okay. Now, today our training is about college financial aid. So I want to go back to that, right? Now, today we're going to be talking about what it costs, right? What colleges normally give you to families in different income brackets, right? And also what we are able to get for families because what I have seen across the board is that families are not getting as much as our families are, right? And so I want to make sure that you guys understand there is a difference. There is a kind of we have more tricks up our sleeve to get colleges to cough up more money. Okay. So before we kind of get it further into kind of our training today, when I talk about the cost, I'm going to be talking about the cost of attendance. Okay. I understand that everyone's talking about different things. Some parents are only talking about tuition. Some parents are only talking about this. Some parents are only talking about that. But when it comes to me, I'm talking about the cost of attendance. That includes tuition, fees, books, housing, food, transportation, medical expenses, personal expenses, yada, 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 everything. Okay. Now, a lot of parents, right, especially with kind of like our students that are kind of going into their first year of college, right, that were with me for the class of 2025. I've been having a lot of meetings and they're a little bit scared of like, when do I need to pay this? When is this due? So on and so forth. So I wanted to put a quick disclaimer out there that colleges don't ask for all the money at once. Okay. They ask for it broken up into the number of terms that the school has. Okay. So if your school is on a semester term, right? Let's say that it's UC tuition. Now, a lot of parents don't understand UC tuition is about $15,700. Okay. That's what it costs. Okay. It is not $8,000. It is not $9,000. It is $15,700. Okay. Basically, what happens that is at UC Berkeley, because they're on a semester system, they're going to ask you to pay 7.5 for the fall, and they're going to have you pay 7.5 in the spring. Okay. Now, UCLA is a little bit different. They are on a quarter system. Now, one of the things that I don't know if you guys have heard about is that there is a kind of movement to try to move all of the UCs to a semester system instead of a quarter system. Okay. It's still in the works. Once it becomes more finalized, I will let you know about it. But up until right now, right, UCLA is on a quarter system. So your $15,000 tuition, right, is broken up into the fall, winter, and spring. Okay. So you'll be paying $5,000 in the fall, $5,000 in the spring, $5,000 in the, or sorry, $5,000 in the fall, $5,000 in the winter, $5,000 in the spring. Okay. That also goes for your food and your housing plan, right? It might cost, I don't know, $22,000 a year, right? But it's going to be 7,000 something hundred dollars in the fall, 7,000 something $100 in the winter, and then the same in the spring. At Berkeley, it'll be $11,000 in the fall, $11,000 in the spring. So everything is broken up. The cost of attendance is the cost to go for a total year, right? You can basically think that if a school costs, I don't know, let's just take a UC, $45,000, that means you're paying $22,500 in the fall and $22,500 in the spring. Okay. Just keep that in mind. Okay. And then also for housing costs, to keep it more like the same across the board, right? I am going to be using on-campus housing costs for the cost estimates that I'm going to share with you today. Okay. So on-campus housing is dorm living, right? And then also food is like cafeteria food, right? Your school's cafeteria. Okay. So hopefully everyone understands that, right? So that no one bites off my head that says, no, the UCs don't cost $45,000, right? And I get it. The actual cost of what it is to go to a UC might be closer to somewhere around, I don't know, 42 or 41, right? But on their website, that's all we can really go off of because I cannot take a poll of every single student that's gone to UC and how much they have actually spent. Okay, so I'm going to start with the different types of colleges. Again, I am in California and a lot of our families are in California. So I'm going to be talking about the CSUs, I'm going to be talking about the UCs, and I will be talking about generally private schools. Again, I understand that for private schools, there is a huge range between how much private schools cost, right? I based mine off of Stanford, right? Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, why did he pick Stanford, right? It's because their numbers are kind of like in between, right? They're not the highest and they're not the lowest. They're kind of in the middle, right? And that's why I chose Stanford. But these are the cost breakdowns of what it costs to go to these types of colleges. For a CSU or a Cal State institution, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, right? San Diego State, San Jose State, San Francisco State, the tuition and fees per year for this kind of past kind of or this upcoming year is $7,160. Okay. That's what tuition and fees cost for the year, right? Books, course materials, supplies, about $1,000, right? Food and housing, right? This is normally the biggest cost when it comes to a state school is your food and housing. It's about $20,000. They have transportation costs about, $2,200, right? Miscellaneous personal expenses, $4,320, right? For a total of $34,518. Okay. Now, just for ease, I'm going to call it 35,000. Okay. That's what it costs to go to a CSU. Now, at a UC, right? Like I said, the tuition and fees, $15,700. Okay. Food and housing, $19,000. Okay. Books, material, supplies, 1680, right? Transportation around 900, personal expenses 2360. Again, a lot of these numbers can change depending on how active your student is, how much they're spending, how much they're going to Chipotle, right? All these things kind of factor into it, but it's around $43,137. Just for ease, I'm going to call it 45,000. Okay. Now, private schools, right? Tuition and fees at Stanford for the upcoming year is $70,206. Housing and food, right around 22,000, right? Books, supplies, and materials, 840. Personal expenses around 3,300, and travel around 2,000, right? So the total cost to go to a school like Stanford or other private schools is roughly around $98,513. Just for ease, I'm going to call it 100K, right? So we have CSUs at 35, UCs at 45, and privates at $100,000. Okay. So that is what we're going to base things off of. That is what we're going to do. Okay. Now, a lot of families might be shell shocked by the cost of college right now, right? And I am too, right? I've been in the financial aid game for the last 15 years. The cost of college has gone up so much. Now, part of that has to do with the cost of living, right? The cost of living is crazy, right? Uh, I am a homeowner, but I'm actually renting right now because my home that I rent out brings in so much money, right? So I am actually living in a rental, and me having my home, right, and renting that out pays for both places, right? So it's actually a really weird situation where rents are super high. Unfortunately, that also makes the cost of living for your student go up, right? Obviously, tuitions have also gone up too, right? But not at the level of living costs. Okay, so keep that in mind, right? But it does depend, right? What you pay at the colleges depends on your income. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna break down kind of the different income ranges we have. So I'm gonna like break it into $50,000 increments, right? Now, within these ranges, I do understand there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of variation. A person making $51,000 and a person making $99,000, it is not exactly the same. But there's no other way for me to do this. Okay. So I'm going to break it down in $50,000 increments, right? The increments get bigger after we get to 300K. It's a $100,000 increment, right? And then 500K plus. Okay. Now I did 500K plus because basically after that, that's basically what I can get you if you're in that range. Okay. But let's go ahead and talk about kind of, you know, the CSUs, UCs, and privates. Okay. Now, what I'm showing you, again, just a word of caution again, this is probably probably what you're going to get depending on your income range, right? Again, it's the total cost of attendance minus whatever I'm saying that you're going to be able to save if you did financial aid on your own, right? But again, I do understand the income differences, right, between that $50,000 range are pretty significant, right? That's why I try to give more general ranges when I say what you can possibly save, okay? So let's talk about CSUs. Now, the total cost of a CSU is around $35,000. Okay. Now, this savings chart doesn't look that appealing, right? Basically, what I'm saying is that you need to make between $50,000 and $100,000 to save somewhere in the range of $2,000 to $5,000. Every other income bracket, if you do this on your own, you will get zero. Okay. Now, if you guys don't trust me, right? A really easy way to go about this is to go on that school's website. put in your information, like how much you make, all those different things. There's something called the net price calculator. Now, I have a word of caution. The net price calculator is not that accurate, right? But it is accurate enough to show you whether you're going to get something or not, right? But go ahead, put in your income. They'll tell you how much you're going to save, right? Now, if you have like a $150,000 income and your net price calculator say it says at a CSU that you're going to save something, please contact me because like that is a complete lie. Okay. But if you guys go, right, and you might want to even do it now, go on to, see your local CSU, try to pull up the net price calculator. So just type in like CSU Fullerton, right? Net price calculator, and then put in your numbers, see what they tell you. It's going to say zero. Okay. So that's how you know that that is what you're going to get, right? Now, at a UC, if you and the UCs cost around $45,000, right? If you make in the $50 to $100,000 range, you're probably going to save about $16,000 to $20,000. If you make to the in the 100 to 150 range, somewhere in the range of $7,000 to $10,000, right? If you're in the 150 to 200K range, maybe in the $4,000 to $6,000 $6,000 range, and then everything else, you're not going to get anything. Okay, this like again, test me on it. Go to the net price calculator for UC Berkeley or UCLA or UC San Diego. Go and test it out, right? Again, I tell parents don't trust net price calculator, but if it's telling you you're getting zero, that's something that you can trust. Okay. Now, private colleges, okay, roughly around $100,000. Yes, I understand there are private colleges that are way less than that, right? But this is kind of like the average school, right? If you're making between $50 and $100,000, you probably save about $50 to $60,000. So you're paying about $50 to $60,000 a year. Okay. And if you think about it, if someone's making $80,000 a year and they have to pay $60,000 or 40 to $50,000 a year, it's not that great of a situation. You cannot spend 50% of your income, right? And that's before taxes, right? To pay for your students' education. Okay. Now, if you're making 100 to 150, the range that you probably make is somewhere in the 35 to 45 range, right? 150 to 200, you probably save 30 to 40, right? 200K range, 20 to 30, so on and so forth, moving down the list. Okay, so that's what it kind of looks like there. Now, here's what I've been able to do for our families. Okay, so on the left, you see what you will normally get. On the right, you'll see what we have been able to do historically for our families. For our families making 50 to 100K, we've been able to get them 4 to 8K, basically enough to cover tuition. Okay. If you make 100 to 150K, we've been able to get you $3,000 to $6,000, right? And if you're making 150 to 200K, we've been able to save you like 2K, right? But if you look at it, your income is 3 to 4 times larger than what the lowest kind of, income bracket is, right? So that's what we're going to save. Anyone above that, unfortunately, can't really help you on that front, right? Now, when it comes to UCs, right? Again, let's look at the numbers. 16 to 20 if you're at 50 to 100. For us, if you're in that 50 to $100,000 range, we've been able to get families roughly around 25 to $30,000, right? If you're in that 100 to 150K range, we've been able to almost double the amount that you get versus what you do on your own, right? If you're at that 150 to 200K range, we've been able to get you 100 to 12 or like 10 to $12,000, right? Man, I'm saying so many numbers right now. I'm just like staring at numbers, right? And my mind's going a little crazy, right? And then if you make 2 to 250, somewhere in the range of 6 to 10K, right? 250 to 300, maybe in the 5 to 8K range, right? After that, it's a little bit hard, right? But again, I do have some tricks up my sleeve. I have been able to qualify some people that are a little bit higher, okay? Now, at private schools, this is where things take a huge turn. Okay. So if you're in that 50 to 100K range, right? Instead of getting you 50 or 60, I can get you 65 to 80, right? Now, at $80,000, let's say you make $100,000, right? And we're able to save you $80,000. That means you have to pay 20. That's about 20% of your income. Now, the colleges, are they known for taking around that amount? Sure. But $20,000 is a lot more manageable than taking out a $40,000 loan or a $50,000 loan. Okay. If you're in that 100 to $150,000 range, we've been able to save you basically, it's not double necessarily, but like 1.8x what you would be able to do on your own. Okay. $50,000 to $60,000. That's what I think I can save you. That's what I've been able to do. Okay. For families out in the 2 to 250 range, right? We've been able to save 30 to 40,000, right? Families in the 30 or 300 to 400 range, 15 to 25, 400 to 500, 10 to 15, right? And then 500K, we've still been able to save them $10,000 to $15,000. Okay. Now, you guys are probably asking, how do you do this? Well, there's a lot of things on the FAFSA. There's a lot of things on the CSS profile. There's a lot of things that they ask you that either are not required, right? Or you need to explain in the correct way, right? Maybe you had a one-time kind of capital gain because your stock vested and you had to do something with it, right? There's a lot of different situations that can come up that can cause people's incomes to get inflated, but the whole point of the financial aid process is to explain those things away, right? I liken what we do to what your CPA does during tax time, right? Now, I understand for W-2 employees, there's less things that you can do, but there's still things that your CPA probably tells you to do. Throw things into retirement, do this, do that, right? With your capital gains, reinvest so that you don't get taxed on it, right? This and that, so on and so forth, right? We do the same things with your financial aid forms. We try to lower your college expense liability so that you don't have to pay as much. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Okay, now quick takeaways here. Okay, what you're probably thinking that you're going to pay for college is probably wrong. Okay, now I'm not saying that with any kind of like malice, right? I'm saying that because a lot of people get their information from the wrong places, right? So just because your neighbor got a certain package for their kid doesn't mean that that is what you're going to get, right? I've seen too many families get tricked by net price calculators that try to paint too pretty of a picture, right? And I also have seen too many families get surprised by college costs when it seems totally reasonable that the college would try to do that to you, right? Especially if you don't know the tips and tricks and what you need to do on the forms in order to get money off of college expenses. Okay. Right, kind of some of the takeaways, right? I want you to go and use those net price calculators to see if you're going to get anything. If it says zero, then you know you need to talk to me right away, right? But those net price calculators, if they do say that they're going to give you something, it's usually wrong. And it, again, like I said, it usually paints too pretty of a picture. Okay. Now, one of the things kind of as we're kind of going down, I do want to make sure that you guys ask questions if you guys have them, right? We have a lot of people here today. I'm very happy that you guys are all here, right? So if you guys have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. You can put them in the chat. If you're a little shy, put them in the Q&A because no one can see the Q&A except for me, right? If you're happy and willing to kind of share your question, go ahead and put it in the chat, right? There's also a function that you can send your question just to host and panelists as well. So whatever you guys are comfortable with, make sure you're putting your questions down. Okay. Now, the kind of biggest takeaway that you should have from here is that you need to understand what college actually costs. Yes, I understand that you're just going to send your student $500 every single month. That's their kind of like, their spending money, right? But you need to see what that is going to be at the end of the year because even that, right? If you're sending them $500 a month, that's 6 grand, right? You need to understand exactly how much it's going to be per year for you to send your student to college. Yes, tuition and fees, those are the big things, right? Housing and food, yes, big things. But there's a lot of other small things that you need to kind of take into account as well. Okay, so make sure that you guys are keeping those things in mind. Okay. All right. That slide shouldn't be there, but let's go to the how can we help, right? I am here every single week, right? Except for national holidays, right? Um, Luckily, I don't think there's any national holidays on a Wednesday, right? But we are here to support you guys. We're here to help answer your questions, right? So we ask, the only thing we ask is reach out, right? So if you're from our Facebook group, we've probably reached out via text, via email, via Facebook Messenger, right? Please respond to us, right? It is actual people that are reaching out to you. It is not any kind of like automated thing. Our team is reaching out to you to ask you questions, figure out if we can help you or not. Okay. Now, if you're already one of our coaching families, you have the Discord, right? The Discord has a financial aid support channel. If you have any questions, if you need to meet with me, if you need to go ahead and figure out, okay, so I want to have a consultation, you can reach out there. I'll make sure to send over the links that you need. Okay. Now, again, like I said, if you also have questions, I want you to ask here as well, right? If you have a question, other families probably have the same exact question. Okay. All I ask is that you don't go into this process blind, right? The people that get hurt the most are the people that think, I'll just do it on my own before talking to anybody, right? At the end of the day, whether you sign up with me is not a big issue. But if you walk into the process thinking, oh, I got this, right? You're unfortunately going to be very sorry with the result, right? So keep that in mind there, right? And if you are kind of in the process of like, supporting your senior into high school, I do suggest that you try to meet with me ASAP. Okay. The reason is because, well, our students with their financial aid process, we actually start in August. So in August, we have parents go ahead and send us their personal information, send us their tax returns. so that we can start strategizing about what we need to do for each particular family. Okay. All right. And so again, some of the results, and again, these are kind of the results we're getting every year. So I want to share them with you, right? So this family, right, I was able to get them about $30,000 to $40,000 at various different types of school. Their family income is at 350, right? Now, you guys might be thinking, oh, that's not possible. Well, here it is in plain writing. You see the date right here, right? It was from early action, right, to these different schools, right? It's from 2025, right? This family, I wasn't able to secure a copy of it, right? But they make 437K. I was able to get them 42K a year in free money, not in loans. Okay. And then finally, I have this family here. Again, this is from the current year, right? It's $14,934. We were able to get that for them, right? Overall, the total savings that they got was around 32 grand, right? Their family makes around $230,000. Okay. This was a little bit of a unexpected result, but a happy result because this family was saving so much money, right? They're basically paying about 10 grand per year to go to a UC. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that it's easy for you guys to reach out to us. So I have made so many different ways that you guys can reach out for a consultation. First off, you can text us. Okay. Now, I was talking about our college application intensives above, right? I do want to make sure that if you guys have questions about getting on the wait list, about other programs that can help your student, you are reaching out to us. So you can text us college at 949-775-0865 to get more information on any of the things. If your student's a senior, it's not too late. There are other programs. It's just that our summer boot camps aren't available. Okay. Now, if you want to text us about financial aid, you can text money to 949-775-0865. Okay. That's the first way that you can reach out to us. The second way, it's super simple. Get out your phone and scan these QR codes, right? The one on the left, or I hope it's on the left for you, right? The one on the left is for financial aid. You can sign up for a consultation right away, right? All I ask is that you guys show up, right? Because if not, you took a spot from someone else, right? So make sure that you sign up for a spot, right? If you want to talk to me. Now, a lot of parents ask this question about when should we sign up? Well, my student is only in ninth grade, right? Well, this is what I tell parents. It's better to lock in your price because our prices continue to increase, right? Just like the price of, like the cost of living, the price of eggs, anything that we have to buy, right? Every year it gets more expensive, right? That's the same with our program, unfortunately. Every year it's going to get more expensive. We're actually contemplating a price increase in the next 45 days. Okay. So you want to lock in your price early, right? Then you don't have to worry about it. You're all set up by the time your student's a senior, right? But the people that are a little bit more like, hey, you have your kind of butt to the fire right now are obviously rising seniors and rising juniors. The reason why rising juniors, you're kind of like, you should talk to me now, is because you're for juniors, the class of 2027, right? The 2025 tax return is the one that they will be looking at. So if there's anything that we need to do for this particular year, it's something that we do want to discuss. Okay. So QR codes, texting. The last way you can reach out to us is if you're in our Facebook group. If you're in our Facebook group and our team reaches out to you, let them know, hey, I want to talk to Coach David, right? Or you can message me directly, right? If you're in our Facebook group, right? You just click on my face, click message, and then you'll send me a message right away. But whatever it is, make sure to reach out to us ASAP. Okay. All right, so I got through that, right? I do see some questions here, so I'll be answering those questions. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat, so I can make sure to answer them, okay? But I'll leave this screen up here so that you guys can take screenshot or, scan the QR codes, whatever you need to do. But if you are a rising senior right now and you haven't talked to me yet, I know, and you're part of our coaching program, I know that our team has already told you like 70 times, right? So this is your 71st warning. Sign up now, or, well, I guess you can sign up later, but I don't know what the price is going to be, and it might be too late for me to help you. Okay. Remember, the timeline of financial aid is the same as the timeline for your college applications. Your college applications and financial aid applications go into the colleges at the same time. You don't turn in your financial aid after you have decided where you are going to go. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look here, right? We have a question that says, if I make 150K, what is the estimated cost ballpark for the private? So if you make around 150K, I'd probably say that you're like what they're going to expect you to pay for is going to be somewhere in the $15,000 to $25,000 range, roughly speaking. As someone that would like if you went through our program, I think that's what you would have to pay. Okay, around 15 to 25, right? And then let's take a look here. The next question is stock received as compensation from an employer considered part of your income? Unfortunately, yes, right? So I live in the Bay Area. In the Bay Area, a lot of families, their incomes look super inflated because they get stock options. Okay. So I've seen this a lot, right? Parents, I ask them, what's your AGI? And they tell me, oh, my AGI is about 650,000, right? And I'm like, oh, why are you even at this meeting? Because you make a lot of money, you can pay for a private school, right? And then I ask them, how is your compensation structured, right? And they tell me that it is base pay plus a small bonus plus stock options, right? Now, here is the problem with that, right? And for those of you that are structured that way, you're gonna be nodding your head. Oh yeah, Coach David actually understands, right? And so here it is, right? So for those that aren't that way and they're just kind of base kind of salary, for people that get their pay kind of like structured in that way with base pay, bonus, and kind of stock options, what ends up happening is this, right? So let's say that your base pay is, I don't know, $300,000, right? And then you have a $50,000 bonus, right? And they also give you a $300,000, they give you $300,000 worth of stock options, right? Now, for the purposes of your taxes, your income is $650,000, right? You need to pay taxes on $650,000. The cash flow that is actually coming into your bank account is only $350,000, right? Now, just doing some very simple, like wacko math, right? If you're paying basically 25%, right, uh, kind of taxes across the board on your $650,000, that means you're paying $162,500 in taxes on your income, but your cash flow is only $350,000. So just doing rough math, right? That means that the actual cash flow into your bank account after you pay your taxes and do this and do that is only $200,000. That is what you have to use to pay your mortgage, to pay your bills, insurance, car note, this and that, so on and so forth. So while you make $650,000, your cash flow is only 200. Okay. Now, for people that have this pay structure, they're like, yes, he understands, he gets it, right? I do get it, right? Because I live in the Bay Area where there's a lot of families that get stock options because a lot of tech companies pay out in stock options. And hopefully, eventually, those stock options are worth a lot more, right? The bad part about it is that you have to pay taxes on it and you actually don't have the cash, right? That is the issue, right? Now, colleges, they don't really understand that because, well, college employees, they only get paid their base salary, right? The only thing that they do understand is that AGI number. Unfortunately, yes, stocks are part of that AGI number. Okay. We have another question that says, if we sign up before 12th grade, when do we begin working with you? So you will always have access to me. If you have questions or if you have life changes that are happening, you can always reach out to me. We can set up a meeting. We can talk about it, right? I've even had families say, you know what, we're moving out of the country. What do we do? Like this and that, right? How is it going to affect my financial aid? We walk through all those pieces. Now, the substantive work will probably start happening in July and August of their senior year, right? But like I said, the good thing is that, well, we locked in your price. So again, in 3 years, I don't know what our price is going to cost, and I don't know what inflation is going to look like, right? But it might be, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars, right? Depending on what happens in the world, right? But again, if you want to like kind of lock it in early, this is the best way to do it. Our youngest student, they saw what I did for their older daughter, right? And their kids are really far apart. He actually just finished fourth grade and he's going to fifth grade and they're already signed up. Okay. We have another question. It says, is the financial aid secrets package included in our college blueprint program? Unfortunately, it is not. Okay. So a lot of people kind of ask, like, why don't you guys include them together? Right. And it's because they're so different things. Right. So if you're part of our blueprint or blueprint plus, unfortunately, the financial aid package is not included. Right. The only package where it is included is our concierge package. Right. And that is kind of working straight with the strategist, me or Coach Art. Right. And so that's a little bit different. Okay. Now, in our coaching programs, we do help students that are looking for outside scholarships. Okay. Now, I just had a training on outside scholarships, I think like 3 weeks ago. But for students that are applying to outside scholarships, right, we will help with the kind of the application process, the essays, interviews. Like we'll get you prepped for that. We'll help you with those essays. Okay. The problem is that for some families, it doesn't make sense to put in the time and effort to do that because these scholarships are only going to hurt you, right? Now, if you're kind of wondering why I'm saying this, look back a few weeks, right? And there's a training that talks about kind of like outside scholarships, how they might hurt you, how you might not want to be actually going for them. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. We have another question that says, what is the current cost for your help right now? I don't like talking about money in polite company. So I do actually kind of talk about that during our consultation. So if you guys are interested, whether or not you're going to sign up, sign up for a consultation. What's the harm? It's free, right? And I can tell you if I can help you or not, right? There's more than one family out there probably in our audience where it's like, I've talked to him. He said that he can't help me. So unfortunately, I got to do things on my own. But at least he was straight up with me. If I cannot help you, there's no point to take your money because, well, we have a money back guarantee. Our money back guarantee is that we're going to save you at least $20,000 over the course of 4 years in college, right? Or you get your money back. So every one of our families has that and it's in writing in your contract. Okay. So again, sign up for that consultation. I'm going to give you even one more easier way to sign up for a consultation. What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to put the link in the chat, right? Because I want to make sure that it's easy for you guys. Oh, it's not copying. Okay. But make sure to sign up for that consultation so that we can kind of talk and see what we can do for your family. Okay, and this will be kind of the final question, and it says, how do they factor in multiple kids in college? So, unfortunately, for only certain types of college do they even consider the fact that you have multiple kids in college. Okay, now if you're in California, I'm sorry to say, the CSUs don't care. They don't care if you have one kid in college or 100 kids in college. It's the same price across the board. You get whatever you get off, okay, based on your income, right? For UCs, again, I'm sorry, right? They don't care if you have one kid or 4 kids or 10 kids in college. It's the same price. You get that amount off, right? For private schools, they care a little bit, right? Because they want to see how much extra money you're spending out of your income. And then you're basically the kind of new income that they look at, they'll have to see how much they can take from there, right? So private schools do care. Public schools don't care because they always know that they are the most financially efficient option. Okay. So I know that sucks, right? And up until about 3 years ago, even the UCs did care. Basically, what would happen is that if they said that you need to pay $20,000 for one, if you actually had two students now, they would say that you would need to pay $10,000 each, right? And then if you had 4 kids in college, it would just be $5,000 each, right? And then if you had 20 kids in college, it'd only be $1,000 each, right? But they got rid of that. Why they got rid of it? I'm not sure, right? I don't make up the rules, but they got rid of it. Okay. So something to keep in mind. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this kind of this screen up just for a little bit so you guys can make sure to get those links, get that phone number so you can text us. But please make sure to reach out to us, talk to us, figure out what your situation is, because I found that probably 8 out of 10 families that I talk to are have the wrong information, or they're kind of misinformed about what they can get, what they can't get, and what college will cost. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, leave these up. If you guys do have any other questions, reach out to us in Discord, reach out to us on Facebook. I'll make a post about this later on in Facebook as well if you want to kind of listen to the replay. Okay, all right, and so I'll talk to you guys again soon. I'll see you guys here again next week, and hope everyone has a great night. All right, okay, bye bye, everyone.